Hey everybody, welcome back to our 8th and final round of Swiss here in Mundelein, Illinois. I'm Matt Bamonte for the NRG series. So let's talk a little bit about what's on the line here for these players as we get ready to fill out the last few slots of our top 8. So first place you can see, 1st through 8th there, big chunk of money, big chunk of points for all of our players there, all the way down to 32nd. Okay, so if you're in the top 32, you're going to get some additional NRG series points and some cash in your pocket, so you can come join us tomorrow for the event. All right, so I'm going to read you through just how the standings look as we get ready again into going into our 8th and final round of the Swiss before our top 8. So, and we're going to play our quarterfinals tonight, so make sure to stick around for that as well. All right, so at 6-0-1, David Delgado and Mitch Weissrock, so they're able to double draw in. They drew last round with each other, I believe, and they're going to draw again this round, so they are in. Now it gets a little funky after that, okay? So at 6-1, goes from 3rd all the way down to 8th. Okay, so that's the 6-1. So they're still alive. A win, you're in. That's easy. Just win your match, right? And then in 9th place, there's a 5-1-1. So Casey Ryback, who we just saw on camera last round, picked up a draw, I believe, against Raymond Perez. And so that draw is very important. After that, 10th through, there's a bunch of places down there at 5-2. So basically, everybody who's going to be on camera here is in a win and in situation. So they're going to join David Delgado and Mitch Weissrock in the top 8. So with that, we're going to jump down into our 8th and final round of Swiss here. And Devin and Becky are going to take us through there, and then we're going to get ready for our quarterfinals.
All right, everybody, welcome back to coverage of the NRG series here in Mundelein, Illinois. I will be joined by Becky shortly, and we have an interesting situation here. So, as Matt pointed out, there are 2 players who are X-1, 6 players who are X-1, and then that Casey that we just saw in the last round took a draw is kind of ruining the fun for everybody, because normally, the top 8 players would just get to say a handshake and, hey, see you in top 8, but that one draw is really kind of putting a wrench in everybody's plans here. So this specific matchup here, we have Azorius Spirits against Mono Green Devotion. Typically a pretty good matchup for the Spirit side of things. But yeah, talk to me, Becky. What do you think about this matchup?
I mean, I'm kind of a big Azorius Spirits fan, actually. I think that a long time ago, at like this kind of start of Pioneer, I was pretty into a lot of the Bant and Azorius Spirit strategies, and I'm really happy to kind of see it make a little bit of a resurgence. I do kind of like just have concerns that, like, even though this deck was kind of built to prey on some of the like non-creature spells that Mono Green is trying to work with, it sometimes does just end up still falling prey to some of the bigger creatures that Mono Green tends to work with. So that scares me a little bit, but we're going to see if Sean can get it done despite those factors.
Yeah, like you said, if something were like a Cavalier of Thorns were to ever kind of slip through the cracks here, also notably Cavalier of Thorns having 5 mana value does not get hit by Spell Queller. So if that's something that Sean has access to, maybe has a Spell Queller, but not some other form of counter magic, that could be something where if Calvin resolves that, can really, make it impossible for Sean to attack with that Curious Obsession creature. And also just this start from Calvin, just having turn 1 Elf, turn 2 Kiora. There was no untapped mana for Sean for like a Spell Pierce or something like that. And we're gonna just jam a Karn here. Let's see if we have a response from Sean.
Ooh. I feel like we're just waiting on a dice now, especially since we moved our Karn from the middle of the table to Buddy next to Kiora.
Yeah, this is
Minus.
tough for Sean. Yeah, because that means there's no counterspell. So I would assume you're going to get Sky Sovereign here, and then just kind of hope that Sean doesn't find a counterspell the next 2 draw steps, and that Sky Sovereign will be able to take out the. Oh, we're going to go for Woodcaller Automaton. Maybe we can get that one up on the screen.
I was going to say, I hope you know what that card is, because
Yeah.
I am like medium. I'm mostly familiar with like the commons and uncommons, because I've admittedly like drafted a lot more as this set than seen cards being used in a lot of these kind of more quote unquote eternal formats.
Yeah, it's funny because this one specifically is, I believe, a jumpstart card, a Brothers War jumpstart card. So, from my understanding, I don't think this is actually in the actual packs. Like, you can't open this in draft, I think. Yeah, but it's a 4 mana for a 3/3 prototype, and when it enters the battlefield, if you cast it, you untap a land and essentially make it a 3/3. So it's really powerful with Nykthos because you can, you have 4 mana to untap your Nykthos. Also, if you have 10 mana, you can just make a big 8/8 and make another 8/8 because it's equal to its power. So pretty powerful card. And we see here a Supreme Phantom. We're going to push a lot of damage here with the Rattlechains and the Mausoleum Wanderer. And we're going to go after the Karn, which makes sense because you don't want a Sky Sovereign to get searched for off Karn. See, that's why I'm wondering if I'm wondering why Calvin got that Woodcaller automaton.
Because we're so
I feel
far
like-
away from it.
Yeah, and I feel like I guess you have the Nykthos, so maybe you just wanted to be able to untap the Nykthos, but assuming that your Karn is going to die with just stuff on the battlefield, I feel like having a Sky Sovereign as a leftover maybe is a little bit more ideal.
We'll see. Looks like we are starting off here with a lot of green mana.
So we're going to Nykthos for 4. Kiora can untap the Nykthos, activate again to go up to 6 mana. And then with the 3 elves in the land, that's 10. That means you would be able to cast. Yeah, we would be able to cast that Woodcaller for the full 10 if we wanted to.
I mean, impressive, but we could have had Ulamog in our deck,
Man, I wish you could get Ulamog off Karn.
Oh,
Well, I don't
no,
wish
I
because
don't
this deck could be obscene, but
I don't wish you could, and I've played Tron for as long as Karn has been legal.
yeah. So we're going to use the 6 floating for a Storm, which is notable because the counter spell of choice in most Spirits decks is Lofty Denial, which is counter unless you pay 4 if you have a flyer, and we got 4 mana available, so we can just go ahead and pay for that Lofty if that is what Sean has.
Yeah, heads up play here. Does seem a little bit, as you mentioned, kind of awkward to continue to hold on to this one card that we know that we got from our sideboard, but especially when we only have 2 cards in hand. Our opponent doesn't really have to wonder that much about the possibilities of what could be played.
Yeah, and that's the tricky part about this matchup is your counter spells are good early, but if you give the green deck time to establish all of this mana, most of your counter spells are what do you call it? Soft counter spells.
Mm-hmm.
So, counterless you pay 3, counterless you pay 4 in the case of Geistlight Snare and Lofty Denial. And once you're able to establish this amount of mana, those counter spells just don't do anything.
Yeah, and that's even another hard part about this Azorius Spirit's mono green matchup is that you aren't really playing removal spells either. You're maybe playing things like Slip Out the Back, and mostly that's just a mono blue sort of style that people are running for Spirit strategies. So it's interesting to see the differences that people are running, and it looks like we're starting with a Geistlight Snare to try and stop this storm.
Yeah, so I think what's going to happen is Geistlight Snare, Calvin's going to pay the 3 for it, and then maybe we're going to sack the Mausoleum Wanderer to tag the yeah, okay, that's what's going to happen. We're going to sack the Wanderer. But yeah, as far as removal spells from Sean's side of things, we have 1 Nebelgast Herald, 1 Brazen Borrower, and 3 Shacklegeist. Shacklegeist is kind of the big one. But the thing about Shacklegeist is it, with Nykthos specifically, it doesn't remove the devotion for the turn. You mentioned something like a Slip Out the Back. That one's actually not that bad because, if there's a Nykthos in play and you slip out the back, say like a Cavalier or an Old Growth Troll, they don't get the devotion for a turn. But with stuff like Shacklegeist, yeah, you're tapping it, but it's still providing devotion for Nykthos.
All right, and the Kiora answered safely. So now it's just a whole team of elves in play for Calvin.
Yeah, we'll see what Sean's follow-up is here. Looking just, has the Rattlechain, so doesn't have to deploy anything at sorcery speed, but really looking for a little bit more pressure. Wants to make this a 2-turn clock, if at all possible. Doesn't want to give Calvin more time. We know about the Woodcaller automaton. I think there's another Nykthos in Calvin's hand, and maybe a Boseiju is the last card. So not a really good hand here for Calvin.
Yeah, certainly not in this matchup, and just kind of awkward about what exactly is going to be cast and where. And it looks like Prototype potentially going to be the call here for Calvin with this Brothers War. Was it called again?
Woodcaller Automaton.
Woodcaller Automaton. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, this isn't bad, 4 mana for 2/3/3s, but it's not really enough. It's not quite going to race. Now, the one thing I will mention, prototypes are really weird, but they do count for devotion. So when this Woodcaller Automaton is played for its prototype, it does count for green pips towards devotion, which is, maybe not the most intuitive thing. But.
Okay. Like its mana cost changes instead of being the 10 to the prototype cost. Okay. That is quite different from a lot of other cards with alternate casting costs. So yeah, that is interesting.
And we see a Shacklegeist and another Rattlechains here, being able to tap that big layer. And Calvin at 12. We have 3, 6, 9, 10. So another Lord would get us there. But even if there's not another Lord, you could even just see, Sean maybe attack for 6 and hold up a Shacklegeist activation, which, okay, we're going to attack for 9 and then likely have a Spirit to be able to tap the layer of the Hydra. Yeah, there's not really any way that Calvin can kind of present a lethal attack through the Shacklegeist activation.
Yeah, now not even a Cavalier of Thorns or something is going to be enough to be able to block the highly surmounted amount of flyers. And you were right about a Spirit in the form of the Spectral Pirate.
Interesting we decided to tap the forest there. I'm wondering if you wanted to just let Calvin do some stuff and tap the lair, because I'm wondering if there's enough for a potential lethal here with the lair. So we have 5 devotion, so you tap 2 lands, make 5. So you play second Nykthos. 5 minus 2 is 3, plus 5 is 8. Make it a 7, 10. That's only 13, so not quite enough. Right, 5 minus 2 is 3, plus 5 is 8. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, but it looks like Calvin is also trying to figure out if that is going to be enough, going through some of the same motions as you just went through.
Yeah, I think he's going to come up a little bit short. My count was 13 damage total.
We have Nykthos number 3 in hand, and we somehow make an extra land drop. Don't do that.
Well, Calvin does have the Storm the Festival.
Oh.
So if he realizes that there's, no path to lethal this turn, just fire that off. See what happens. Now, there could be a counterspell from Sean's side. It does not look like there is. Okay, so maybe not dead. That looked like 3 lands, I think. Didn't look like the best storm. Maybe not quite as bad as Bill's storms that we saw on camera in the last round, one of the previous rounds, but.
Oof. Very true. This one we at least found like a 3-mana spell, which is, yeah, probably better than everything that we saw Bill get.
Yeah.
That's rough. That's just how it goes sometimes. Sometimes you play Storm the Festival, and sometimes you just don't find things that you need. But actually, Calvin to find Old Growth Troll and Cavalier of Thorns. Unfortunately, a singular Cavalier is not quite going to be enough.
I was going to say, I think he needs to hit the last Nykthos, because you mentioned there was a Nykthos in Calvin's hand, so that means 3 accounted for. If he flipped the last Nykthos, you have the lair untapped plus the elf to activate the Nykthos, and I believe that would have been enough to flashback Storm.
Whoa.
But did not hit that 4th Nykthos, yeah.
I also am not completely sure that that's the last card. I was making a hopeful speculation or like a hypothetical, but yeah, Kelvin not able to stop the onslaught of flyers from this Azorius Spirits deck. So it's quickly going to go to Sean Ryder there for this first game.
Yeah, that was kind of as expected. The blue-white deck just being able to put a decent amount of pressure, also backing it up with stuff like Shacklegeist to just being able to tap the creatures for a couple of turns. The counterspells even kind of did something, that Sean had to use a lot of resources to do so, but was able to, line up the, what's it called? The Geistlight Snare plus the sacrifice of the Mausoleum Wanderer to hit that Storm the Festival. And was able to get the job done.
All right, well, let's take a look at these sideboards of these two decks. We can take a little quick look at the Mono Green Devotion one, just see what they're working with if they do play that Karn in play. But as we've mentioned time and time again through watching this deck in Pioneer as a whole, as well as today, we are likely not really seeing any amount of sideboarding from these decks. They're likely just going to shuffle up, represent, and just have these sideboards as a bunch of a little bit of a Karn's toolbox, if you will.
No changes. Next slide.
Taking a look at Azorius Spirits.
There we go.
Walk us through. What changes are we seeing? Let me know what's
All right, there's probably going to be some changes here. So let's go over the sideboard. We have 1 Brazen Borrower, 2 Extraction Specialist, 2 Katilda, I believe Dawnhart something, Dawnhart Martyr. Yeah, 1 Nebelgast Herald, 2 Aether Gust, 1 Destroy Evil, a Fateful Absence, a Mystical Dispute, a Settle the Wreckage, and 3 Portable Hole.
That's a
It's
lot
quite
of
a bit of
one-ups
one-ups
there.
in this. Yeah, quite a bit of
thinking
one-ups in this sideboard.
of
So I think from Sean's side, we're definitely going to be looking at the Aether Gust. Those I think are slam dunks. After that, this is interesting. So the specialists, no, those are more for like the grindy matchups, Rakdos, stuff like that. Katilda, I mean, it is big, but it doesn't line up that well against Cav, so I'm not a fan of that. Nebelgast Herald is interesting as like a way to tap Cav. I could see going towards that. Fateful Absence, maybe to blow up a Cav or a Karn or something, although that one's kind of dicey. Maybe you want to go towards Portable Hole for Llanowar Elves. Sean has a lot to work with. The only cards that I know for certain are coming in are the 2 Aether Gust. After that, he really has a lot of wiggle room in terms of how many bad cards or how many cards does he not want in his main deck. Stuff like the Remorseful Cleric is probably not that good. Maybe you trim on a couple of Spectral Sailors because you're not really ever activating that thing. Shore Up, probably not that good against a deck with no removal spells, so has some stuff to cut. So it kind of depends on how he wants to play the post-board games.
Yeah, and it's kind of interesting too because it feels like a lot of our answers that are in this sideboard don't really do a lot of exiling, which certainly kind of can end up hurting you against cards like Old Growth Troll and the Cavalier of Thorns. So it'll be interesting to see what decisions end up being made and how it ends up kind of lining up against this mono green deck. And we can see, Devin and I can see that the mono green player has presented their deck. One player is still shuffling, kind of once again as a result of the quick submission of the 60 back from the mono green player, whereas Azorius or whatever deck is playing against mono green often has to be like, I got a few decisions to make here.
The real question is, when do we get a sideboard guide for mono green, though?
Yeah. I mean, you could make a sideboard guide that is just like, if you're in this situation, this is what you're carning for. If you're in this situation, this is what I mean. That wouldn't really work because you can't consult a guide like that in the middle of a game. But like, even so,
No,
like,
you know what it is? The sideboard guide is how many times you shuffle in each particular matchup. Like against Rakdos, you do 5 bridges or whatever. Against blue white control, you do 10 bridges. Stuff like that.
There you go. That would be pretty funny. That's the next thing that I'm putting on my Patreon is my Mono Green Pioneer sideboard guide. You'll be able to pay $2 for it. Thank you, Calvin. Your cards are so
Calvin's
shiny.
showing us a hand.
I didn't really see anything. But a good start.
Got an elf.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a fan. This elf.
Are you a fan of? Yeah, I was gonna say, are you a fan of this elf?
I'm a big fan of this one.
Okay.
This one passes the test.
I like the art. I just don't like foils.
That's fair. I actually, if I had to like run Elvish Mystics right now, I would do the Magali Villanueve Secret Lair ones. Not like anyone asked which ones I would be running, but since I've talked so much about all of the different elf arts and which ones I like, I'll give you that one too.
Right. Yes, we see turn 1 elf with turn 2 Oath of Nissa, finding a Kiora, and see what we have as a follow-up for Calvin here. Another elf, and potentially a third elf. Now we're just getting in there. No, it does have the Sailor. I was actually wondering if Sean wanted to block there if he had the Sailor. But yeah, if you have Curious Obsession, no, you definitely don't want to block.
Yeah,
that makes sense.
We got a quick answer on that one.
Yeah. I'm wondering maybe if you don't have the obsession, if you're ever interested in blocking, but even then, probably no, because the upside of drawing the obsession there is so high that you'd rather just keep it because you just get to go to town with the obsession now.
Yeah.
But shields are down for Sean here, so Calvin could resolve a Cavalier of Thorns, and that might be no pun intended, a thorn in Sean's side.
We will see. I mean, Mausoleum Wanderer is a thin veil, potentially, but we'll see what Calvin is going to be able to deploy on this turn. It's like,
My guess is probably not Cav, because I think that one would have been slammed into play.
oh
Okay, we're
yeah,
going for a Karn.
oh yeah.
We're going for a Karn. Now, I don't really think we're going to get the Automaton again. He got that last game, and it didn't go that well for him. I'm kind of interested in getting Sky Sovereign. He's looking at Haywire Might. That one could be interesting to blow up the Curious Obsession.
Do we?
It's reasonable.
Yeah, that's a Sky Sovereign. I was gonna say, do we even have one? There's no way you
Yes,
wouldn't play
yeah,
that
yes,
card,
we have a Sky Sovereign.
right? But I don't
I
know.
hope so.
I hope so
Yeah,
too.
there's
but
a Sky
hey,
Sovereign.
people have done some
only-
crazier things in Magic. I don't know.
The only way there wouldn't be a Sky Sovereign is if Calvin boarded it in, and I can't ever imagine a scenario. Going for Pestilent
Pestilent Cauldron. Okay.
That's a weird one. I guess. So the idea behind getting Cauldron, right, is if the Karn dies, then you can just Cauldron back the Karn.
Mhm.
The issue with that is, what does that accomplish? Because you've basically time walked yourself to where the Karn is dying anyways, and now you're time walking yourself again because you're casting the Cauldron to get the Karn back, and then you have to spend another turn casting the Karn. Like, it just doesn't, you know what I mean? It's kind of
gained us
weird.
life.
It does gain 4, which is not irrelevant.
Oh, we gained the life of what was attacking Karn instead of us.
True. It's a good point, yeah. So I guess it kind of gains like 7.
And considering that is like, I mean, there was an onslaught of creatures coming at us last game. I don't think the amount of life that was gained would have made the difference in the last one, but if it goes anything like kind of similar to the last one, that could end up being a difference maker.
Yeah, I'm wondering if the consideration over snapping off a Spell Queller. I love that. Just snapped it off. Yeah, good Spell Queller here. Definitely want to get that Kiora.
Yeah, Spell Queller
was
is
thinking-
doing its best Seagull from Finding Nemo impression.
I was wondering if maybe you got the Cauldron because you were trying to slam the Cav next turn, because you would have played Cav.
Oh,
Yeah, that doesn't
yeah.
make any sense. Because I was thinking like, oh, well, if you say, okay, well, I play Cav next turn, it gets countered, then I can Cauldron back the Cav and the Karn, but then you would have just played the Cav if you had it last turn, so. 2 mana. Are we going? No, we're not going beatdowns. All right, 2 mana for a Haven.
I hope we're not going beatdowns into the Spell Queller.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know what Calvin's leftovers are. I mean, we know about the Cauldron, I guess, but that one just seems really slow.
Yeah, and we only have one other card beside it, so all right, we're taking kind of a big hit here.
Yeah, this is a big one.
Supreme Phantom souping up the team.
And just like, imagine if we had gotten Sky Sovereign that turn, right? Because if we had gotten the Sky Sovereign, you can't Spell Queller the Sky Sovereign, and you just get to kill the Spectral Sailor with the Obsession on it, and I feel like you're in a much, much better position. The only thing I can think of, so there are situations, and I don't know if this is what happened, but there are situations where you board in the Sky Sovereign because you don't think you're either A, ever going to resolve a Karn, or B, ever have time to go Karn into Sky Sovereign, and you just feel like you have to draw it. I don't know if that's necessarily the case, because it just seems to me that if you had a Sky Sovereign in your sideboard, it was an easy grab at the Karn. So it's really tough.
Yeah, and I could have actually sworn that we had just seen it when we flipped through it this last time, but could be wrong. Some of these shinier cards are a little more difficult to make out.
What are we going for? We're going for a Kiora.
We got a lot of mana untapped.
So you can go Kiora, untap the land, tap 5 for the Cauldron, but that just gets Mausoleum Wanderer, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, because the Wanderer's a 2/2.
Mm-hmm.
So you tap 5, leave an elf untapped, and then the Wanderer just gets to hit the Pestilent Cauldron. And funnily enough, I don't know if the game's ever going to get to that point, but Pestilent Cauldron in the graveyard is really bad because you can't Karn for it. And that's like the way that you win the game is Karning for Pestilent Cauldron. Yeah. So when it gets countered, it goes to the graveyard, which is kind of hilarious.
Yeah, that is unfortunate. We're taking a peek at our sideboard once again. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that one is
it.
Yeah,
that was the Sky Sovereign. Okay. All right. You sure enough.
Pretty sure. I'm with you. I'm on your side in this, Devin.
Has another Karn. So I'm wondering if the thought process behind getting the Cauldron was that because you had a second Karn, you can just Karn for the boat, but that's just too slow. You just don't have time for that. Yeah, we're done.
Oy.
I believe that is lethal damage. We both know the last card in hand.
Yep, very true.
No, feed's frozen for me. There we go. Sean Ryder taking it 2-0 over Calvin Trager. Excuse me. Congratulations to Sean on top 8ing. And yeah, that was, kind of textbook, exactly how we would expect it. Spirits versus mono green.
Mhm.
We talked about how pretty much the entire reason to play Spirits was that you have a good green matchup, and that's exactly how it played out.
Yeah, and we mentioned that like one of the few things that kind of gets you there against them a lot of the time ends up being something like that Cavalier of Thorns, which we just never saw from the mono green deck. So no way to block that onslaught of flyers, and that's a quick 1-2 for the Spirits deck. And I'm fairly certain that we do have a little bit of a backup match that we'll be able to really quickly hop down into so that the action doesn't stop here. And speaking of the action not stopping here, be sure to hit that follow button so that you can know every single time we have the action of Paper Magic up and running for you to watch on these weekends here at the NRG series.
Yeah, I am super, super excited. And here we go. Here's our backup match. Excuse me. Kyle Montgomery on Azorius Control. Nicholas on Rakdos Midrange. These players are both X and 2. Now, we talked about kind of the weird tiebreaker situation and the standing situation with the last round. So I believe Casey Ryback got pared down into an X2. Now, I think if Casey loses to that X2, this potentially, depending on how the other matches shake out, could be a win and in, but not 100% positive.
That's actually really funny because wasn't Casey the round before somebody who got pared down into an X2?
Yes, Casey got paired down into
Yeah.
Raymond.
Oh, that's
Yep, and
so
then they ended up
awkward.
drawing. Yep. That's really, really awkward. But yeah, Casey should have had a clean win and in.
All right. Azorius Control, Rakdos Midrange. This is maybe not a place that I would envy for the Rakdos midrange player, but I mean, at least having a Bloodtithe the Harvester to start us off is certainly not the worst place to be.
Yeah, it's weird. So when Liliana the Veil was first introduced into Pioneer, and everybody was playing, between 3 to 4 copies in the Rakdos midrange deck, this matchup was a nightmare for blue-white because Liliana the Veil was a card that was so hard to interact with, and if it resolved, it would just drain you out of all of your resources.
Yeah.
Now, more recent Rakdos decks have been cutting Liliana the Veil.
I was going to say, I don't think I've ever played Liliana the Veil in my Rakdos
Right.
decks.
Yeah. So, it's a card that's kind of fallen out of favor recently, which I think does maybe shift the matchup a little bit more towards the blue-white. Now, I think Rakdos is maybe still slightly ahead. Once we get to post-board, game ones, there's a lot of fatal pushes that don't do anything. But once we get to post-board, I think I like Nicholas's side of things. But yeah, it's tough without Liliana.
Yeah, and at least like your silver lining is that you're still playing things like Thoughtseize and stuff, and you're just hoping to be able to kind of get under them and then just be able to get rid of their board wipes and stuff and have your few remaining creatures just be too difficult to handle. And like I think the other part is that a lot of your edge in this matchup comes from the amount of creature lands that you play. Either things like Den of the Bugbear, Hive of the Eye, Tyrant, and your kind of creative ways to go around a lot of the things that Azorius is playing.
Right, yeah, and this is kind of like the got a little beatdowns going on here, the Bloodtithe Harvester, and this is kind of exactly what you want from Nicholas' side of things, where you're, playing some Harvesters that largely replace themselves with the Blood Token, give you some card selection. You're forcing Kyle into maybe casting a Wrath that he doesn't want to cast, and that could maybe, get you into resolving something that you want to resolve. So yeah, nice little bit of, pressure here. Also has the Den of the Bugbear, as you spoke of too, so pretty good stuff here for Nicholas so far.
That'll be
and was actually able to convert a Fatal Push there on a Shark token, which is not something you usually get to do in these matchups. So
yeah, feels pretty good to at least make use out of that and not make that card just completely dead in game number 1.
Going for a Fable. That's going to get absorbed.
Yeah, a little bit too much value, and also going to help out Kyle in gaining some life back, which is going to be very helpful now that these Blood Tithe Harvesters are starting to see a little more red here.
Yeah, the life from Absorb is just so massive. Like, imagine if Absorb was just any other counterspell.
It's
Kyle would be at
how
8
big
life
it
and be
is.
facing lethal. Yeah, it's crazy. Okay, we are going to Verdict.
Clean up this board. All right, shields down. What are we going to be able to do? Do we have something like a Shieldred?
Misery Shadow. Not exactly the one that you would like to resolve when their shield's down.
Yeah.
Because that one gets answered by a lot more stuff from Kyle's deck.
Oh, yeah. But it does kind of do an okay job of being like a one shade show. Like you can kind of just keep just this on the battlefield and be like, okay, let's see how much damage I can do with just this creature and pumping it every single time.
Yeah, like looking at Kyle's deck list. Let's pull it up here real quick. What did we find?
A Fateful Absence.
Okay. I looked away for a second. That is an answer. 2 Fateful Absence, and actually that's it. Well, the verdicts. Verdict, Farewell, Fateful Absence, no portable holes. Oh, because we're playing Farewell. So most of these blue-white lists are now, I think, cutting portable holes because they're playing with Farewell. So that does make sense.
That does. I agree. Farewell, such a powerful card. Yeah,
it really is, especially like against Kroxa too, especially in this matchup.
Yes. I was going to say, Kroxa is one of those cards that I was very excited to actually start playing. It's kind of one of those cards that, like, it feels like it got completely overshadowed by Uro for that entire time being, and it's one of those things that I was so excited to finally get to play with and get to have a little bit of interaction with, and it's been also one of the more impressive cards that I think I've played with from this deck that just kind of ends up being that last little bit to just like get you there every single time.
Yeah, essentially when they banned Uro, they unbanned Kroxa, right? That's kind of what
yeah,
happened.
That's exactly what happened.
We got a Wandering Emperor coming down, taking out the Shadow. Nicholas doesn't have a lot of cards left. And
neither does Kyle. Only 3 in hand, it looks like. I mean, I guess that's kind of plenty for an Azorius control deck, but also it feels like that is a place where, as an Azorius player, you're hoping to have a few more variety of choices.
Yeah, I think I saw a 5-mana Teferi in Kyle's hand.
I did as well.
So, yeah, we're choosing to deploy the Wandering Emperor. Maybe he wants to hold up a counterspell. Maybe he can deploy the Teferi and hold up counterspell next turn. We're going for a Den activation. We know about the Fateful Absence.
Mm-hmm.
She's going to get cast. We can float mana.
Mm-hmm.
Float mana and then crack the clue.
I think that actually at this point, Nicholas is trying to decide, like, what phase are we in? Did you wait for me to go to combat to do this? Is it going to be bad if I float mana? Because the card in hand is Dreadbore, I believe.
Oh, okay.
And so it would actually matter, since that is a sorcery speed spell, to make sure that we were in combat before we are floating red mana to potentially cast a spell like that.
Could at least crack the clue, though, right? Float a mana, then use the Blood Crypt to crack the clue.
Mm-hmm.
Teferi here. Teferi is going to draw a bunch of cards. Gonna uptick the Wandering Emperor, and yeah, this one's looking kind of tough for Nicholas.
I was gonna say, yeah, I feel like the moment that this Teferi resolves and we actually have enough mana to also activate Castle Vantress before we go back to our turn, that's like really just the door starting to close. Like we're at the point where we need to like start shoving our axe through that door and being like, here's Johnny. Otherwise, like we're already in a rough spot here.
Yeah, I think we're going to fire off a Dreadbore on one of these Planeswalkers. Start with that. Start with the clue. Try and find a Thoughtseize so you can go Thoughtseize Dreadbore. Mm-hmm. Found a Shadow. I think that's going to get vetoed. And I guess we can deploy a shadow. Highly doubt it's going to be good enough, but we could try. Looks like Emperor is going to make a token.
Oh my god, and
Yeah.
actually Kyle's hand is just shaped up quite nicely. It looks to be a backup copy of Emperor. I think a backup copy of Teferi as well, Supreme Verdict and Shark
Oh.
Typhoon.
Oh yeah, just
Absolutely
injected
not.
into my veins. The hardcast Shark
No,
Typhoon. You love
absolutely
to see
not. Oh, I hate it.
it.
I love it, but I
Hardcast.
hate it.
Yeah,
Also, this
chat.
is nice.
That's the
We're
thing about hardcast.
this is nice. We're in a time-shifted match. I can actually like talk about things that I can see in players' hands for once today. Because for those of you in chat, I am 15 feet away from where the players are playing. Most of the time, I'm having to be like very, very vanilla, very ambiguous about what I am saying for a lot of these games. But now that we're finally in a time-shifted match, I'm getting a little bit more liberty with what I can say about this match, and it's invigorating me again.
Hardcast Shark Typhoon, definitely enough to close it out. Yeah, that was a really tough sledding there for the Rakdos mid-range deck. It felt like there was the curve started off pretty well. A couple Bloodtide
Yeah.
Harvesters was able to kind of sneak in a shadow, but yeah, just the verdict into the combination of all the Planeswalkers and a little bit too much to overcome.
Yep. Yeah, unfortunately, our like rebuild after we got Supreme Verdicted was just not there. Like the Death Shadow, or not Death Shadows, Death Verdicts were just not really what we needed. And it was not the correct like sequence of things that we needed to be able to handle all of a sudden 2 planeswalkers in play, and our 1 creature land is out of there. So let's take a look at some sideboards, start to kind of piece together where a lot of these decks are going to change in preparation for games 2 and 3 potentially.
So from Kyle's side of things, there are, let's see, 2 Shark Typhoons, 2 Rest in Peace, a Doomscar, 3 Mystical Dispute, 2 Negates, a Narset's Reversal, an Elspeth Sun's Champion, a Narset Parter of Veils, a Dream Trawler, and a Bane Slayer Angel. So, want all of the cards that say draw a card or effectively are 2-for-1s. So Shark Typhoon, love it. Elspeth Sun's Champion, Narset, Dream Trawler, love it. Baneslayer Angel's interesting. I think it's not that great because it just kind of trades 1-for-1 with Dreadbore, and that's 5 mana sorcery that trades 1-for-1. Not really where you want to be from the blue-white side, so I'm not a big fan of that one. Negate could be interesting against more of like the post-board Planeswalkers, stuff like that. But yeah, the Typhoons and the Planeswalkers and the Dream Trawler, slam dunks.
Oh, Dream Trawler. Every time I see that card, I feel like I have a shiver down my spine, and I just like remember its time in standard, and it's like a trauma response to seeing Dream Trawler.
Yeah,
I'm
Dream
not
Trawler's
happy
kind
to
of
see
messed
that
up.
card. It's a hecked up card. Let's take a look at the Rakdos mid-range sideboard and see, would there ever be anything that could possibly be done to this Rakdos or to this Azorius deck with this Rakdos mid-range?
All right, so we are looking at 1 Liliana, 2 Duress, 2, I would assume, Go Blank, and 2 Reckoner Bankbuster. I don't think you want to go towards Unlicensed Tourist because it's not that much stuff going on with the graveyard. At least Go Blank is a 2-for-1. It gets 2 cards out of their hand, and maybe, like, obviously the dream scenario with Go Blank is you discard 2 cards, and I get your Memory Deluge out of your graveyard. Yeah, it's kind of hard to set that up, but even just getting 2 cards off of Go Blank still probably worth it. And then the Duresses are good. I like those. The Liliana's great. And the Bankbuster's just being able to draw a bunch of cards. So I think that's where we're going for Nicholas' side of things.
Yeah, I'm in on that too. And interesting to see that there is actually Lily. This looks like 1 copy in the main board as well. And I was interested to see also the split and difference of like Shieldred and other kind of some of these bigger spells, because we're seeing a big kind of variance in the difference between some of these big spells that people are deciding to bring for these Rakdos mid-range decks. And it's actually interesting that I don't seem to see a copy of Kalidas anywhere in this deck, which I find quite interesting, and I feel like the difference is just that you're saying, oh, Misery's Shadow is going to be doing the job that I would normally like for Kalidas to do, so I don't really have to worry about playing that more expensive spell that has potentially bigger upside, but the important wording that's on it is already on this 2-drop that I recently got printed for me.
Yeah, I think the one of the maybe the matchup that it probably comes up the most in is the mirror, because Kalidas being able to generate 2/2s is very, very important in the
Oh,
mirror match.
huge.
But against stuff like Monogreen Devotion, you'd much rather just have the cheaper card. Like you had to keep in Kalidas against Monogreen, even though you didn't want to, just because
Yep.
it was your only like clean way to answer Troll and Cav. And now that you have that on a 2-drop, it's just so much more efficient.
Yeah, and it's funny that you say clean answer when most of the time it did not feel like a clean answer. It felt like it hurts to do this. It hurts that I have to sequence this way, but you got to do what you got to do. So let's go down into this game number 2, or potentially go live into the match. Nope, we're staying time shifted here.
All right, what do we got? Got Nicholas on the play. Looks like kept 7 cards. From what I could tell, looks like 7 to me. And what do we got? We got a Thoughtseize. Oh, never mind. He was thinking about what card to put back. So it was 7, but
We could still have a Thoughtseize. Maybe.
I technically got it right. Right? 7 cards.
Technically. London Mulligan saving you. All right, what's going to be our start here? Ooh, are our lands that awkward that we're happy to think about it this much? Are we putting... Oh, did we mold a 5? Oof. Oof.
Yeah, this is... It's kind of tough. Okay, no, we're just thinking about what land to play first. Gotcha.
Okay.
All right, we figured it out. Hive, go.
How do you
So
feel
no
about
discard spell.
the D&D book art?
Oh, the lands? I love those. I
love
have
them
4 of
so
each.
much. Oh, yeah. They're so good.
So good.
Big fan.
Probably
Big fan.
Probably one of my favorite alternate arts.
Yeah, I'm probably with you as well. Ooh, all right. Bankbuster, a card you mentioned from the sideboard as a good way to be able to kind of keep up with card advantage, and also like the fact that it just like makes a creature to be able to crew itself is actually kind of lovely.
Yeah, this card is really important in this matchup for a couple of reasons. One, it draws cards, which is pretty good place to be against blue-eye control. And the really nice thing about Bankbuster is that it's kind of like a 4-mana creature. It's a threat that also survives Supreme Verdict. So you can kind of overextend into Verdict because you're getting the cards back from Bankbuster and still have a threat left over after they verdict you. So it does it all, basically.
Yeah. And we start off with that Bankbuster and then go ahead and Blood Type Harvester into crewing the Bankbuster and just getting in pretty early. Unfortunately, temporary lockdown. Unfortunately, a clean answer to both of the things that we've been able to do. Ugh, this card makes me
tough.
so unhappy as somebody who likes to play this Rakdos midrange deck.
You can't really call it a temporary lockdown if you're playing an enchantment against a Rakdos deck that has no way to remove enchantments. Like, there's nothing temporary about that. Come on.
That's true. Now, where's its like fading counters?
Yeah.
I feel like we gave it a bad name for what it does.
Another Bankbuster, though. So at least we got a little something left in the tank.
Yeah, unfortunately, that Bankbuster
Foretold.
was followed up by immediately drawing a card, so we're not like committing anything to this board and getting back into it.
So just scanning the deck list here for Kyle, we have 3 copies of Behold the Multiverse, 3 Make Disappears, and then also 1 Doomscar. So that could kind of be anything. Could even be a boat.
Oh, all right. Got a bunch of lands. They all do a lot of different things. What direction are we going in? And it looks like, Fable is very quickly going to get vetoed. Not even
Oh,
be able to stay here.
I hadn't registered. Make disappear is not the foretold one. The foretold one is saw it coming. Never mind. So I don't know.
Yeah,
I got
Make
those two
Disappear is the
confused.
New Capenna one.
Yeah. Okay, my bad. So it's either Doomscar or Behold the Multiverse.
Yeah, but if deck lists aren't open and you see a foretold from a control deck, I feel like 9 times out of 10, I'm just like, that's a saw it coming.
Yeah. I mean, I've seen some crazy people play Starnheim Unleashed or whatever that card's called. So
I actually
you
think
never know
Starnheim
with these
Unleashed
blue-white
is
control
kind of
players.
hot. I've played myself a Starnheim Unleashed or two.
That card is sweet.
Certainly is
You
for a
can't-
certain place and a certain time. I don't know if I would play it right now, but I've been known to play it.
You just can't trust these blue-white players. You know, they'll play anything at this point.
All right, Devin outed himself as a blue-white hater. Get him.
Oh yeah, no, you don't. I don't. Yeah, I don't need to
You're
out.
like, this
you know.
isn't a secret. Come on.
No, it's definitely not a secret.
Oh,
All right, what do we got? A
Duress,
verdict, an absence. That's a fairy, and
a Baneslayer Angel, a Farewell, a Teferi. Oh,
was that a farewell?
it's a Farewell. It's
Oh, there's
the
a Baneslayer too. My goodness.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Oh boy.
An embarrassment of riches is what I would call it.
See, you know, Nicholas is a greater person than I am because if I duress my opponent and I saw that hand, I'd probably just pick up my cards. I would just be out of here.
You know, I probably would too. Especially like depending on what's in my hand. We have 3 cards. Yeah, I would
Yeah,
probably
three
be with
cards in it. I'm done with this game. I'm out.
Especially like this is duress. We can't even take the Baneslayer Angel.
Yeah, I guess you take the Teferi, but this is rough.
It hurts.
There's
You
a Field
can't
of Ruin
ever
too to take
take-
out the Hive.
Oh, okay. Listen. We're just waiting for the moment where our opponent says farewell, all modes, and then we get our things back that are under the temporary lockdown.
I see. Okay.
Oh, okay. So not a terrible follow up here in Go Blank.
So probably discard the land and the Fateful Absence.
That's probably what I would. Yep. And just hoping to draw another land. And if you're Nicholas, you're maybe saying, maybe you'll never draw the land to get to your farewell.
Yeah, and you have 5 mana for the Baneslayer anyways, so I can't tell. Is there a second white? I see irrigated farmland, blue side of blue-white pathway,
Yeah,
Field of Ruin Castle. I can't tell what that last land is.
I think it is the white side of the pathway, of the blue-white pathway.
Okay.
Hengegate?
Hengegate, I think is what it is. I think it's what, Hengegate, Mistgate?
They all have so many names.
They do.
It's so many to remember. Oh, and it looks like, just to be safe, I guess, like on the off chance that actually is blue. There's no way it is not white if
Yeah.
we're on island, right?
Yeah, if we're getting island, it's probably the white side of the pathway. I would hope so.
I would certainly hope so too. Just so we don't have to worry about our different colors and also get rid of a way for Nicholas to draw cards. We are Field of Ruining the Castle Lochthwain.
Yeah, I mean, Nicholas does have a couple of cards left. The Bankbuster, I guess, doesn't have any counters on it, but we can start going beatdowns with the Bankbuster. I guess we just have to really hope we have an answer to this Baneslayer Angel.
Feels like a cool movie name. Beat Down with Bankbuster.
Starring not the Azorius control player.
The Azorius player is starring in a different movie that just so happens to have Baneslayer Angel in it.
The old Wallet Slayer.
The old Wallet Slayer. I didn't play during that time.
Yeah, this was like this really was like the first card in a standard format that would like I think ever hit $50, and people went bananas over it. It was so crazy. Revolutionary printing. Yeah, still getting played in 2022.
Yeah, only ever as a one of, but I don't know. There's something beautiful about that at the same time. to me. I like Baneslayer Angel a lot. I think that art is really gorgeous. I think Greg Staples knocked it out of the park. But it is. And it's kind of interesting, especially now with like the Lyra printing. Like it's kind of fun that you end up playing a bunch of like one copy of Baneslayer, one copy of Lyra, and whoa!
What's this?
All right, block with my Baneslayer Angel. Do your worst.
Interesting.
Kroxa? Okay.
Where are we going?
That's what I want to know.
Oh, did we need a 5th card in the graveyard for Kroxa? That must be what it is.
Oh,
I mean, that's a tough way to do it.
Yeah.
That is a tough way to do it. Oh boy. I mean, do what you got to do, I guess, but
I'm running out of fingers on my first hand to count the ways that Nicholas has kind of hurt me in this game.
Okay, Field of Ruin does not answer the Kroxa. So I guess we have that going for us, but we can't... Because, like, theoretically, we were kind of racing the Baneslayer Angel with the Hive of the Eye Tyrant, but now with the Field of Ruin...
Kroxa.
Yeah. Well, okay, so you go Kroxa essentially
hand,
attacks for 9.
Yeah.
Yeah, no cards in hand.
That's not terrible.
So Kroxa attacks for 9, put Kyle to 12. Then next turn, Baneslayer, so it goes...
Hey, we have a pilot. We attack for 10.
12. Oh, the pilot. I forgot about the pilot. Okay. So 10 down to 11. Gains 5 up to 16. Nicholas goes to 10. Then, we got the life totals wrong. Okay, now.
Oh.
Okay, now that we have that updated life totals, this race looks a lot worse for Rakdos.
All right, this first Hive is going to probably do its darndest running into a Field of Ruin. But hey, we got to start somewhere.
All right. Yeah, I assume this Field of Ruin's going to get activated. So Kyle goes to 23 after Kroxa trigger. Then Field of Ruin gets activated on that. Take 7, go to 16. And then gain 5 to 21. Nicholas goes to 10. And then next turn, if you fire up the Hive, that's 10. Kyle would go to...
Welcome to math class.
11? Yeah, it's actually close. It's actually close, assuming that both players brick for, 3 turns. Which is probably not going to happen.
Yeah, and I feel like it's already not happening when Nicholas has 2 cards in hand. I think one of them is a land, from what I was able to see, but also there's just got to be some crazy powerful things that could potentially be on the top of Kyle's deck, which is just so scary.
Right. Even something, just any way to remove this Kroxa from the battlefield just, swings the race massively in Kyle's favor.
Yeah, especially there's only 1 card in the graveyard now for Nicholas, so we are just like far away from ever being able to really start to fire that up again.
Misery Shadow helps though. That's actually not a bad one for Nicholas.
Yeah. No, the little bit of a pump, not too bad, not too shabby. Especially we got a lot of lands in play.
Oh yeah, we're going deep on that Misery Shadow. Now I just want to take a look at the creature. Oh, it's a shade. Okay.
Yeah.
Because I know Baneslayer has protection from demons, and I wasn't sure if the shadow was a demon. I know it'd kind of be weird for a shadow to be a demon, but I was just checking.
No, it's worth checking. I actually have been surprised the amount of times protection from demons and dragons has come up randomly in certain games that I've played.
Yeah, it used to come up a lot in Standard too with Broodmate Dragon. Mm-hmm. That's like Baneslayer versus Broodmate was kind of the OG fight.
Iconic. Is it really a fight if one has protection from the other? And
true.
Ooh, Duress. What's your 1 card in hand? Oh, Deluge.
So Duress was cast. Deluge was found.
No. Oh no.
Okay. So Teferi's gone, but now we have to contend with a Dream Trawler.
Oh no, Nicholas, are you reading Dream Trawler? I have bad news for you, my friend.
Oh wait, no, this is fine because the Kroxa gets the Dream Trawler in the hand.
It does get the Dream Trawler out. Oh, thank goodness, you're right. So
this is actually fine.
You can breathe a sigh of relief.
Kyle's at 21. You go attack with everything, discard that. How many lands can he pump? 1, 2, 3. I think he pumped 6 times.
Yeah.
6,
7 if we
8,
want to
9,
use
15. Yeah. That could be 16.
Oh, but it looks like
Yeah,
we're just hiding
actually.
instead.
Okay. Oh, because he wants to get the deluge out of the graveyard. That makes
Makes
sense.
sense. No, I like that play.
And then you just pump with the rest.
Wow, Hive good. Hive good, Hive great.
Yeah, Nicholas actually is, I think, pretty easily winning this race.
I think us having this shade has made a bit of a difference. Oh, we did use
the shade
treasure.
was a
Oh,
massive pickup.
when you said we were going deep on the shade, we are going deep. We sacrificed our treasure and everything.
So that was 4. So that's 2, 5, 6, 12, I believe. That actually brings up a good point. Kyle could have taken land and Dream Trawler off of the Croxa. The duress blanks. A Croxa attack, discard land, untap, play Dream Trawler. I didn't think about that. That's a really good line.
That just feels so unintuitive to how you use. Like it's one of those things where like yes, sitting at home, I watch it and I'm like, no, this would be smart. Oh my gosh, the other day I was playing Indomitable Creativity and I like needed to discard something and I was playing against an Eldrazi deck that had Reality Smasher and at the time I didn't think about the fact that I could have targeted the Reality Smasher, discarded my Archon of Cruelty to be able to persist it back.
Oh, wow.
And it was just like one of those things that like in the moment I was just like so stumped, couldn't think of anything and then like I stepped back sometime later and was just like, oh, this very like normally bad thing, this normally very unintuitive thing actually would have been phenomenal for me. And it's just so hard
That's
when
crazy.
you're especially on like a feature match. You're just like not thinking about so many things or you're kind of like you're under this pressure that kind of makes you play in an autopiloted fashion. And so I definitely relate and understand to the fact of being like, I just am not thinking as clearly as I would like to be thinking.
Yeah, that's definitely something that, doesn't come up too often. But now the question is, can Kyle survive this attack? There's a land, or no land. We discard no cards off Croaks, so go to 4. 9, chump block the shadow. Yeah, where this is just lethal. All right. Game 3.
Game 3, but we will not be watching Game 3 as our top 8 is actually currently being announced in the house right here, right now. We will be getting that information to you very shortly. We're just going to have to buffer for a little bit in that time, so stick with us. Hold on. We'll be getting you that information as soon as we can up on the screen for you to see. And okay. Actually, we are going to watch Game 3 as a little bit of a buffer because I am being way too hasty thinking that we can get everything. Excuse me, my bad. We're going to watch Game 3. We're going to try and keep some action going, keep you all entertained while we figure out a way to show you in a very aesthetically pleasing and nice way the top 8 for today's Pioneer 10K here at the NRG series. Let's go into game number 3. Maybe. There we go.
All right, there we go. Nope, we're back.
Maybe? Hard to tell. Nicholas
3,
should actually have a little pip there, but it's fine.
We know it's game 3. It's fine.
We know. We're good. I'm just saying.
All right,
I just want everything to be perfect.
Kyle on the play. And looks like we got keeps. I think we got keeps.
Looks like it. All right, let's see. Nicholas actually, I think, played last game quite masterfully and was able to kind of recover in a very intense fashion. So we'll see if he is going to be able to do it once again, as a foretell is the first thing to be done for Kyle in this game.
And I can tell you for certain it's not a make disappear.
It's not, definitely not make disappear, and probably not saw it coming.
Yeah. We get a Bloodscythe Harvester, and this is kind of like the early pressure that Nicholas wants. Just get in a couple of chip shots, make Kyle kind of react when he doesn't necessarily want to. And yeah, just try to, get towards maybe more of your late game power. Like you did mention this a lot with the Rakdos side of things, the creature lands are very, very important in this matchup.
Yes.
Just, there are ways to get around Supreme Verdict. There are ways to kind of, punish the Azorius player for holding up counter magic on a couple of turns. So, once we get to the later stage of the game, those cards are very important.
Mhm. And I find a lot that the creature lands end up being like the way that you just say, all right, here's a way that I'm finishing off a planeswalker, something like a Wandering Emperor, or you thought like this Teferi was safe. 5-mana Teferi, pretty difficult to answer, but usually like 3-mana Teferi or things like Narset, if you just like have nothing in play but you have a creature land, it usually ends up being able to get the job done and make it so that you don't have to worry about those planeswalkers constantly accruing more value than you're able to keep up with.
Oh, God, the same thing we
Again,
saw last game.
deja vu. Are we sure this isn't the same game?
Oh boy. Yeah, lockdown on Blood Tithe, that's the brutal part about it. Is like normally Bankbuster is kind of your way to get around Verdict, right? It's you play the Bankbuster, you say, okay, well, what are you gonna do? Verdict? I still get to keep a Bankbuster, and this is not only does it cost one less than Verdict, it also just happens to get the Bankbuster too. It's such a beating. So we get a Fable follow up here for Nicholas. Missing a land drop, though. That is not where you want to be.
Yeah, it's kind of weird how important finding land drops end up even being for this Rakdos deck. And I have to imagine, like, we just drew 2 Shieldreds, it looks like. Or maybe one of those was a land, but that has to be a card that just, if it's able to sit and play for, like, even just 2 turns, is just huge for Rakdos. I find that the Shieldred was one of those very unassuming cards. Like, we were all like, this has words on it. And then everyone was like, this has words on it.
Yeah, the card is definitely powerful in this matchup. It's just a little bit awkward trying to, line that up against stuff like a Supreme Verdict.
Yeah. Ooh.
Get a Trespasser.
This is another one of those
cards. This might be the bait.
Yeah, it has to be. But this is another card that I've just like constantly been impressed with. It has just been able to do some pretty crazy things. And even in times where everyone's like, oh, you normally take this card out, I'm like, I don't know, I think this card's pretty good.
Right. Yeah. It does so much. Like eating, being able to keep the graveyard in check, very, very important against stuff like Is It Phoenix, and being able to, like, even against Rakdos, where decks that have not a ton of like stuff going on with the graveyard, if they're trying to kill the Trespasser with the card that's targeting it, you just get an extra card out. So it's such a powerful card.
This is potentially a scary place for Nicholas to be in. That's a lot of creatures in play. Would be a pretty juicy Supreme Verdict, but it looks like we are Fateful Absencing. Fatefully absent? What is
Absencing? I don't know what we're targeting. I think Kyle's deciding what the target. Looks like we're going after the Shadow, I think?
Looks like
What did I miss?
it. Yeah, I think that's right. All right, make ourselves a Kiki-Jiki.
Yeah, Flip Fable's good. I wonder if Kyle had a Verdict there, but was waiting until the Fable flipped to kind of just get everything.
That makes sense, actually. And like at 18 life, you're not pressed to go ahead and use it that turn. You can take a little bit more damage, and making sure that you don't have that Kiki-Jiki that likely would fade a turn and then just be able to make a hasting copy of whatever you play certainly seems like patience is a virtue.
Okay, there's the Behold. Trying to find some action for Kyle. I can't quite get a good look at Kyle's hand, but I think we bought him 2 lands there. I think we picked up a Teferi.
Oh, is that an Elspeth's Son's champion?
I think it is. I think that is an Elspeth's Son's champion out of the sideboard. That's a pretty good one. The nice thing about that one too is it kind of like forces the overextension into the Wrath, because you don't have enough creatures in play to kind of get towards the Elspeth, so you have to keep extending more into it.
Yep. Yeah, that's another format of Standard that I didn't really play in, but I have heard kind of horror stories, depending on what side of history you were on, either horror stories or fond tales of Elspeth's Sun's champions. So
Look, all I remember about that format is Siege Rhino was the best card, and if Siege Rhino is the best card in the format, I think that's a pretty good format.
that's a place where Devin is happy.
Yeah, I just want to cast Siege Rhinos all day.
That's fair. All right.
We got here for blue, I know. There is the Elspeth Sun's champion. Could go towards that. I can't quite get a good look at what else is going on there. We're still deciding.
It's okay. We don't need to worry about what else is happening, because the only thing that's happening is Elspeth's Sun's champion.
There it is. Elspeth hits the board. Probably going to make some tokens. And again, this is kind of what I talked about. Just the Elspeth... Oh, we're getting an Oracle text? Okay, I gotcha.
I guess
Just
our
the
Elspeth is in a different language, so that makes sense.
Right. Just being able to make a ton of blockers just to, even just chump blockers to have, clean up these or block these creatures to make it, so that Nicholas has to extend more in order to get towards the Elspeth. Really, really tough spot.
Yeah, I remember actually the first time that somebody played an Elspeth against me, and they were just like, make 3 tokens, and I was like, excuse me, you make how many? And then they're like, I paid 6 mana for it, and I'm like, yeah, but you make how many?
Yeah.
Especially because, like, at that point, your opponent, who is presumably playing a control deck, has already done so much to like kind of dismantle your board that you're just like 3 tokens
Right.
after I just played like 12 different cards to make 3 creatures, or even try to keep 3 creatures on the board, just has me feeling like absolutely abysmal.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the good news for Nicholas is there is a Castle Locktwain, so we can kind of get a little bit more cards that way if we don't have something like a Dreadboard to get towards this Elspeth. But yeah, this is gonna be a tough one. Is that a Misery
that's a
Shadow? I
Goblin.
think.
Mhm.
Go blank. Okay.
Yeah, how many cards were left in Kyle's hand? Would that just be a way to completely... No, we got 3 cards. We keep the Teferi every time. Ooh.
Copying Shaman token, I think.
Graveyard Glutton, I think. Maybe? Maybe I'm wrong. Well, we're looking at graveyards. Ooh. Okay, if you copy Graveyard Glutton, it comes in as a copy of Graveyard Glutton and not the front side, I believe. So yeah, just getting to cleanly
Correct.
take care of some things in graveyards. Let's start exiling some of our own things to deal some damage potentially. It looks like that will be the case.
Yeah, I have to imagine we're attacking Elspeth, and we're probably just going to see 3 chump blocks, yeah. So 3 chump blocks. Still not sure if Kyle has a Wrath in hand or a Sweeper of some sort. But yeah, this is... I don't know, it feels like a weird spot for Nicholas where it's like you kind of want to commit more to the battlefield to get towards this Elspeth, but at the same time it's it's like how much can I really commit into this potential Supreme Verdict? Now the Go Blank is good. I don't know how many cards. It looks like Kyle's gonna get to keep 1 left over.
Yeah, and I think that it's a 5 minutes of Fairy.
Okay. It's not a bad one.
I would agree. I think that card's pretty good. Oh, Liliana to follow it up. Let's go. That might be a
That's not bad.
order lull moment, but
oh, sure, because you can exile the Teferi.
yeah.
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
I'm not sure that it's going to really matter for the blue-white deck, but...
Now, I see a Hall of Storm Giants in the graveyard. I don't think there's one in play.
I don't believe so either. think
I think
the
we just have a
only
castle.
Yeah, I agree. Well, we might have a field too, but like we at this point, I think that Nicholas is doing quite well on board, and this Liliana, as you mentioned, is going to be absolutely huge in this matchup.
Yeah, I think Kyle might have drawn a Shark Typhoon because I saw him
Oh,
like put it onto the battlefield real quick, but then pick it back up. So I was wondering if like if the Liliana gets upticked, would you rather have the just the hard cast the Shark Typhoon and hope to draw spells after that, or are you like content with just making a 5/5 and just because if the Liliana goes up and you cycle the Typhoon, you still have to discard the card that you draw off the Typhoon. So I'm wondering if you just want to kind of say high roll and just cast the Shark Typhoon.
yeah, it is a little bit awkward as you're mentioning because you would have to cycle it before combat. So like the jig is going to kind of be up.
Yeah.
You're not having your normal gotcha moment with your flying shark.
I guess the 5/5 is still pretty good. Oh
Oh,
my goodness. Nicholas drew a Dreadbore too. Oh boy. So that cleans up the Elspeth. Question is, you can't really attack into the 5/5.
yeah, we're definitely in a more awkward position, but all right, looks like we're just going to make a copy of our Graveyard Glutton again and continue to look to our own graveyard here to try and just do a little bit of draining to get Kyle to a lower life total. The unfortunate part about this Shark Typhoon being a 5/5/2 is that if it gets to live, it is also kind of putting an end to our Liliana in the Veil, which is kind of the one thing left keeping us in this game. Well, not like the only thing left keeping us in this game, but it is a big part of keeping us in this game and in a good position.
Yeah, I think with that Dreadbore, Nicholas is actually pretty significantly ahead. But yeah, like you said, it's that Shark Typhoon's going to get to clear the Liliana, and then it's kind of the top of Kyle's deck versus the Glutton, the Goblin Token, and the Reflection. I guess there's also a castle too. I mean, Nicholas still has a lot of stuff left over.
Yeah. And didn't cast anything. Goes back to night. What are we copying? Glutton again.
Yeah, and then because the Shark Typhoon had to clear the Liliana, we actually get a good attack in here.
Yep.
Because otherwise, that 5/5 blanks the 4/4s. Yeah, Nicholas still at a healthy 18, so not really in danger of, say, like a two turn lethal from the Shark Typhoon or anything like that. So it looks like we're doing some chump blocking, I think, by the motions that Kyle picked up the 3 creatures, didn't go to his life pad.
Yeah, that's kind of a hard decision. I feel like I would be very tempted to block the Goblin Shaman and kill it, but I think it's a
Double
hard.
block one chump, the other one take 4.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that would be what I would be tempted to do, but I think you're maybe just if you're Kyle thinking I get like depending on what you drew, just like I have to buffer as many turns as I possibly can to stay in this and hope to draw Supreme Verdict, and then it's not going to matter if I chumped certain things.
Yeah. And then looks like we get a castle activation for Nicholas.
Yeah, in response to a Field of Ruin.
Yeah. Get some more cards. And with the shark attacking, I would have to imagine there's got to be a Wrath here, right?
Oh, I have to believe so. Have we even
I
gone back
mean,
to Kyle's turn? This might be on Nicholas's end step.
oh, okay. So we're end stepping the Field of Ruin. Okay,
I
my bad.
think so.
That makes sense.
And I think that the idea for Kyle is also like, I don't know, thinning the deck a little bit, trying to make sure that we have a high enough chance to draw something big. Oh, but we just tapped 5 mana. What are we tapping 5 mana for? Hold up.
Castle activation, I think.
Oh, castle.
Yeah, we both have castle. Well, Nicholas no longer has a castle.
Castles on castles. Less castles.
I think Kyle kept a card.
So
See what Kyle drew. What do we have for Kyle? Attack with the shark token. And there's a farewell. So that's going to clean up the creatures.
Don't say all modes. Don't say all modes. Don't say all modes.
Yeah, you don't want to get rid of that temporary lockdown. Probably do want to get the graveyards in case a Croxa is drawn. Yeah, does make sense.
Oh, we didn't name artifacts. We still have a treasure.
Shieldred.
Where'd
that come from?
I feel like it's been in Nicholas's hand for a few turns. I think that Nicholas has been sandbagging this Shieldred.
Yeah, that might be.
So.
Right. Yeah, you figure Nicholas had enough stuff going on that he didn't need to deploy it into a potential wrath. So it does make sense. Yeah. Another verdict off the top.
Wow.
Right. We're trading top deck for top deck here. Okay, well, that's another good top deck.
Hey. Oh, but we have
a Bankbuster too.
Absence.
Okay, the Bankbuster's good.
That's true, but wow, battle of the top decks. Okay, all right, Bankbuster, let's get going.
Draw some cards with the Bankbuster. I was gonna say, is there a die on that Bankbuster? There we go.
Shouldn't we have needed to sacrifice that treasure? Hold up. This is a time-shifted match. We can't do anything, but I feel like this treasure has lived through a few too many things. Lived through the farewell. That would have been free to get rid of it for, but okay.
Yeah. Well, it's weird because the treasure was like kind of hanging out with the land, so maybe Kyle just didn't see it.
Yeah. Who knows?
We got a Croxa. That one... Oh, I guess there's no cards in the graveyard. I was going to say... Oh, did we miss the crew with the Croxa trigger on the stack? I think we might have missed that.
Might have.
I mean, I'm assuming you would want to do that.
I would think so. When your opponent is at 5.
Yeah. We're gonna crack the clue. See what we find. I think it was a duress.
I have a duress when my opponent has no cards in hand. Darn it!
I'm gonna draw a card, I think. All right, draw off the Bankbuster.
Then go blink.
Probably remove the counter from that. All right, I'm assuming that means time was called, and we just didn't get to finish the match. So.
Well, at the last.
That was quite the match, huh, Becky?
That was quite the match, and does result, I believe, in just a draw. All right, our top 8 has been called. It has been announced. Top 8 players are sitting down. We are going to very, very, very short break. Just going to resituate a few things and then get us back down, started. We are playing 1 round of quarterfinals tonight and then doing the rest tomorrow morning. So we have 1 round left. Don't go anywhere. We will be right back.